Hello, good evening, everyone. How are you?
Um, Fabulous, thank you. Yes,
Thanks for joining me again tonight. Thank you very much.
my pleasure.
And I'm sorry I'm a bit late. I've had a few problems, but we're getting
We're
there.
here now. We're here now. That's the main thing.
Yes, I want to talk tonight about relationships. Okay, and what the I've done some bullet points here. Where is it? Two. Um, and this is the first one I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
If I can find it. So, um, where's it to? Um, why are girlfriend and boyfriend relationships so complicated or so complex?
Well, boyfriend girlfriend relationships don't have to be complex. I think it depends on what each person is wanting, expecting, is looking for. I mean, you may have a couple who just hit the mark and they know both exactly where they stand. So some people might both be in agreement that they both just want a bit of fun and they don't
Right.
want anything serious and they don't want kids and they don't want to get married and they just want to be together. And if both people are on the same page, then that's not complicated at all. I think the problems happen when if you have a boyfriend and a girlfriend and then perhaps they start developing and evolving into a career, maybe one goes to uni, maybe one wants to travel and take a gap year or two, all those other things, all these different layers of life can start to creep in. And I think then when you perhaps have different goals and different aspirations and different views on life, and perhaps as you get older, different baggage, different
Mm.
histories, different stories, you've perhaps been hurt or let down or whatever, that's when it can start to get a bit more complicated and a bit more difficult to navigate.
Mm. In some ways, it's like soon you first kind of like meet your partner, like your girlfriend or whatever, you know, or your boyfriend in another case. It's so and it's everything's in the air, isn't it? I love you, and sex is okay, it's going and everything's
Well,
going on fine.
that's a lust, isn't it? I mean, I always talk about breadth and depth. So the depth, well, the breadth is the length of time you've been together. So you have the initial honeymoon phase, which is the sex and the fun and the going out and the getting drunk perhaps and partying and having wonderful walks on the beach and skimming stones together and all that kind of thing. That's the breadth. Over time you do things together and you hit a few rocky patches. One might not have very much money or have been made redundant or had a period of ill health or somebody in the family is not well, all the stuff that happens in life. But the
Mm,
tough times are the ones that give you depth. And the
mm,
depth is the sustainability, so that if one is out of work or one is ill or one is struggling with low moods and perhaps depression type of things, if you've got the depth, you've got the love that started to grow, which is proper love rather than actual just lust and fancying each other and wanting to run to bed every 5 minutes, so
yeah, yeah.
you,
But
you get the
Susan,
whole thing.
is that really the case? Because in my case or anybody else's case, if I kind of like when I first met my wife, you know, I was we had a bubbly relationship. Everything was going all right. We were having sex. Sorry, I'm afraid to say it sometimes, but we and it was everything goes all right, and then gradually, sometimes you find it very difficult when you've had enough of each other. Sometimes, when you get married and things boil off, or you get what I'm trying to say?
I do, and I think that's where more than the initial attraction has to be worked on, and everybody who's that I know who's had a long-term relationship that's been a success or even not a success has said that relationships require hard work and tolerance,
Mm,
because the whole thing is about remember, we get into bad habits, and a lot of couples over a period of time, particularly if they're busy at work, they've got a lot of stress on, they've perhaps got kids and they're trying to pay the bills and get the homework done and ferry them every night to horse riding and tutoring and special interest things that kids do these days. They've got all that. If you're not careful, you're day-to-day life can become drudgery and mundane, where you're literally not talking to each other, you're not paying much attention, you're saying, oh, we're out of milk, and don't forget Hermione's got netball tomorrow night, or whatever it might be. So
mm,
you're rushing, and a lot of households these days have both couples working, both people, or
mm,
single parent families. And
mm,
so the run it, well, we're talking about relationships, but when you're running in at night and you're rushed off your feet and you're unpacking the shopping, trying to get the tea ready, remembering to get the sports kit ready for the kids and all the rest of it, the last thing you possibly want to do is to sit down with your partner and say, and how was your day, dear?
yeah,
And
yeah,
how you're feeling, and
yeah,
let's have a little bit of us time together, and I'll massage your feet, get lost, mate. I'm
mm,
knackered, I want to go to bed, I just want to sit in the chair
mm,
with a can of beer or whatever it might be. So we have to be aware of the problems, because people, I do couples counseling, and I've had couples who have not really realized that 10 years, 15 years have gone by since they last had a proper conversation, because
mm,
they've
mm,
literally dropped into day-to-day mode, which is just about getting by,
mm,
and surviving and doing everything they need to do and getting the house clean and doing the chores at weekends and rushing here, there, and everywhere, and accommodating kids and then elderly parents and whatever, and keeping their friends on board. And so, I sort of map out things that perhaps we need to think about to invest in our relationship, because your partner will be there once the kids have gone to uni and your friends have moved away and all the rest of it, and your job you're thinking of change. So it's about getting some sort of balance in there, where you say, actually, my relationship with my partner, he or she is my best friend. We're lovers, we loved each other, where did our shared goals and dreams go? Let's spend some time every week, what, one night a week, or a morning, a weekend, or something, or try and fit in time where, or at bedtime, go to bed an hour earlier or something together, uh,
mm,
and, and sort of find some space where you have a place where it's a no-go zone. You say to the kids, if the bedroom door's shut, you don't come in. You maybe knock if
mm,
there's an emergency, but but
mm,
we're in there, we're having a chat, we're having some us time, we're
mm,
talking, we're
mm,
we're just being together.
mm. Well, we in our household we don't have any kids with us, but when we have an argument, we never go to bed on an argument.
Good,
Never.
good.
Because we'll always like to sort something out
Yeah.
before we go to bed. And
I
we,
think the rule with that is making sure you do it early enough, because it can be that, that is a little mantra that I've heard several times before, which is a nice rule to have. But if two people have very different work schedules, so one's on
mm,
shift earlies and the other's on shift late or something, or one likes to go to bed early and read and the other wants to stay up and do gaming or TV or
mm,
something, you have to find time to make proper time to do that properly, rather
mm,
than one person absolutely shattered saying, yeah, 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 okay, okay, I don't mind. To
mm,
talk things through properly is a beautiful rule to have in a household, but making sure that both parties are comfortable with that, and both
mm,
parties are prepared to, and listen to each other, not second guess what the other person's thinking or finish their sentences, or, you know, give each other equal space to
mm.
say what you're actually thinking and feeling about.
Yeah. It's so difficult, though, isn't it?
Of
In a
course it
relation.
is. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Anything worth having is worth fighting for, and relationships are no exception. You've got two people, particularly if you've been around the block a bit, which I know you have, then, once you've got a bit of baggage, well, you have, so you're open about it. So any of us over the
Thank
age
you.
of 20, 25, 30, we've got stuff going on. We've got,
Yeah.
we've got, opinions, we've got viewpoints, we've got triggers that upset us
Mm.
or that annoy us or bother us. So that's baggage. And being inflamed by something, we have to say, hang on a minute, that's nothing to do with my partner. That's my stuff.
Oh yeah,
I'm being
yeah,
I'm being activated. I'm being triggered by something because somebody way back in the day made a comment about my attitude or my opinions or my figure or my intelligence or whatever. And don't say that to me, or don't treat me like, who do you think? We can
yeah.
be inflamed by something that isn't, completely, it wasn't meant that way.
So, if someone's in listening now and someone's in a relationship now and they've had all the good stuff in the beginning and they're going through a rocky path now, what do you advise?
I've got loads of tips. There's loads of tips on my website, lifestyletherapy.net. So you're welcome to have a look on there. But I think there's quite a few things. I mean, accept that each other has different views and attitudes, and be prepared to accommodate those. You may not agree. You may feel that they're ridiculous or stupid. Using a fairly volatile example at the minute, lots of people have different approaches to COVID or lockdown.
Mm, mm,
So if we start talking about politics or religion or Donald Trump or something that's nothing even to do with the family or your mom or your kids, all
mm,
these subjects, so being fairly tolerant, and allowing each other to have opinions and agree to disagree. If you can't if you can't come to terms with each other's opinions, just park it, because you're still both entitled, and it doesn't mean you love each other less because you and I both have different opinions about things.
mm, mm.
I think the number two is, don't take everything personally, because sometimes if our partner comes home feeling a bit moody or a bit down or whatever, one of the things I often say is women and men process stuff very, very differently. Women
Yes,
will,
yes,
will
yeah.
absolutely. So a woman will come in through the front door, and as she's taking her coat off, she'll be unpacking the shopping, picking up the post, sorting it out, turning the oven on, getting something out of the freezer, all sort of 50-50 different things. Whereas a man will come in, and how men like to come in and this is true for the number of times I've shared this and people have gone, oh, makes complete sense. But a man will come through the door and he likes to walk around the house a bit. You give your fella about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He usually likes to walk around the house, go upstairs, maybe go in the garden if you've got one, survey his estate, have a look around, get into the house, maybe take his work clothes off. And if you give him 10 minutes, 15 minutes, he will come back downstairs, go into the kitchen and say, right, honey, I'm home. What do you need me to do? And
Mm,
but all too often, the woman might be going, well, I'm that busy and this has got to happen and that's got to happen, and can you and the fellas like this, and it can start a tension that doesn't need to be there. So just giving each other space to do what you need to do, because women usually are very busy coming in doing things, and the fella just likes a little bit of time, but that's okay.
mm, mm.
um Allow yourself to be nudged along. If your partner's feeling fantastic and you're feeling really down, sometimes just allow it. Allow your partner to say, come on, sort it, stop it. Don't be like that, Steve. Allow
Mm.
yourself to be moved along, and just you don't always need to be staying where you're at. Sometimes it's okay to have that tickle under the chin, allow yourself to laugh or just smile, and just break the ice and move along a bit with it, and giving each other space. I think that's an important thing to do, particularly for couples who have been perhaps cooped up together for periods of time. That's changing a little bit now, but agree to give each other space, so that each other, even if you're in the house together or in an apartment together, you don't need to be under each other's feet and, what are you doing, and let me join you, and come and sit with me. Sometimes it's important to have a little bit of time out, whether it's going for a walk or whatever it might be doing. There's loads of different things.
Yeah,
Also, having separate hobbies and interests is another thing. It's fine to do that. You don't
mm,
need to be in each other's pockets.
yeah. So, what would you do? What would you do with someone who's got a jealousy intent? Who's very jealous?
Jealous.
Yeah.
Uh, Jealousy is their problem. And I think we have to push each other into being adults. I think the problem with jealousy is it can become bullying. So I mean, I specialize in abuse. I think I mentioned this to you last week. And I
Mm,
think jealousy and emotional abuse and even physical abuse, can seep through as a consequence of somebody being jealous. And if we allow our partner to, who you're talking to, and let me see your phone, and where have you been today, and I tried ringing you, you weren't here, and oh, let me go and check the mileage on the car. Oh, gosh, there's an extra 20 miles on from yesterday, and all this kind of thing. I think we have to accept that that's their problem, not ours. If we've given them a reason to be jealous or insecure, then maybe that needs a whole different look, in the sense of talking and being tolerant and understanding that they're feeling that way. But if somebody's jealous for no reason, then they're jealous of our friends or our popularity or our outside interests or our family, then we have to push the other person into adult mode and refuse to buy into that. So,
right.
where have you been? What are you doing? Stop it. Are you saying you don't trust me? Leave
Mm,
it. Rather
no.
than getting angry and apologizing and justifying ourselves, because that just creates that dynamic. And it might be easier said than done, but sometimes encouraging that person who is a jealous person to say, where did this stem from? Where's this coming from? Do you think you need to do a little bit of work on yourself? Because sometimes jealous people have had letdowns and hurts and insecurities and things that have triggered them in the past, and it's nothing to do with the relationship today. And so
Right.
sometimes they have to look at the pattern that they have allowed themselves or drifted into, or whatever the reason might be, that they've got into. And sometimes they need to take time to say, actually, I recognize now this is my issue, this is my stuff. It isn't about our relationship. It's the fact that because you smiled at the waitress, or you gave her an extra fiver for a tip because the service was good, or you went to the loo when you were 3 minutes longer than you should have been, or you went outside or something. Where did you go? What were you doing? Actually, that's my insecurity. Actually, when I think about it, I do trust you. I know you love me, but don't, I think the person who's on the receiving end of a jealous partner has to be very wary of not allowing that jealousy to escalate, because if you buy into it, it will get worse and worse and more and more
So,
and more obsessive.
do you think then that the partner needs to get rid of the partner then?
I think it depends on how much you've got invested in the relationship. I think the jealous person needs to often be encouraged to do some work on themselves and own their problem, and
Mm,
and say, look, if you carry on like this, I can't stay with you. If you carry on like this, it's becoming a bigger problem, and saying to that person, you really need to address this, if not for our relationship, for any future relationships. I frequently work with people who come and they say, I know I'm jealous, and I wasn't, and I don't know what's happened, and why am I like this? And we work on it. And I will say to them, even if you can't salvage this relationship because it's gone too far, and sometimes it
mm,
has by the time they go for therapy, even if you can't salvage this relationship, any future success in relationships that you may be wanting to take up with and have, then you don't want to be getting into this. You want to stop this now, stop the rot now, before it gets more and more entrenched with you.
right. Okay. And also abusive. If someone's in an abusive relationship, what do you suggest? I know the quick question is get out. But what happens if they're in an abusive relationship and they're in love with that partner? They don't want to leave the house because some women don't. They just stay there because they really love the partner and everything. What do you say about that?
Well, first of all, there's lots of different kinds of abuse. There's the physical abuse that we know about, where people are increasingly violent. There's sexual abuse. It's possible to be raped in a marriage, even though some judges, the judiciary in this country is just getting used to the idea of that. There's financial abuse, where people are
Mm.
kept on a very minimal budget and asked to account for every penny they spend and everything they need and want. So they're tied in. There's lots of different
Mm.
kinds.
How about physical?
Silence.
How about the physical abuse?
Well, physical, I mean, the whole thing is that at the end of the day, there are places men actually are often abused too. It's not uncommon for men to be at the receiving end of violence. I mean, you remember the recent court case with Johnny Depp,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
and that was a high profile case, but it's not an uncommon situation for men to be attacked, and because they have ingrained values about not hitting women, they can increasingly be emasculated, and so that's not uncommon, whether they're in uh, relationships with men or other men or women. So it's there are places, hostels that people can go to, that most local authorities have, and different helplines are available. So have a look online if you can. I would suggest that if somebody's in a relationship like that where they're thinking of getting out, I would say keep some sort of log, some sort of diary, some sort of notation of when and what's happened, so that you have justification, so that you can act for your sake, so you can remind yourself of what and when happened, but
Mm,
also for if you end up going to the police or court, you've actually got proof. Um, that maybe you take care to start trying to salt a little bit of cash away, so that you have money that you put into a bank perhaps, and you have statements go to somebody else's address, whether it's to a family or a friend, but somewhere where you won't be get caught out with that. So
mm,
a completely different bank that starts salting money away. Tell your friends, keep in touch with your friends and family, so that they know that they keep in touch with you, and they say, if have an escape bag that you have somewhere, so that if it gets really bad, that you can go and you know that you're safe. So
mm,
little stepping stones like that, but the big one is to, if it's very difficult violence abuse, then it is about saying to yourself, this is not going to get better. Because
mm,
when we put up with something, no matter how bad it is, and no matter how afterwards they promise and say it won't happen again, and I'm so sorry, and I'll get help, and all the rest of it, if we choose to stay with that, we're kind of letting the other person know that they get away with it. And,
mm,
no matter how contrite the other person is for what it is that they're doing, we're kind of saying, oh yeah, okay, because you're so apologetic, because you're crying, because you're stroking my head, because you're saying you'll do this and you'll get help and you'll buy me a new piece of jewelry or whatever the heck it might be, and take us on holiday or something, whatever it is that's coming as a consequence of that, we're kind of letting that other person know that eventually we will put up with that, and that's not a good message to be giving, so they won't change, they won't get better. And also, so I mean, the thing is, one of my articles is called "An Abusive Relationship Can Creep Up on Us." And the truth is, it's the opening sentence in that article is, if we went out with somebody who on a first date said to us, are you going out looking like that? Are you wearing that? What do you think you're doing? Or whatever, and made some nasty disparaging comments, it's highly unlikely there'll be a second date. But
yeah, yeah,
gradually over time, our partner can be they try and alienate you. So you'll get comments like, your friends don't like me, they're trying to come between us. Or, oh, you said you're going out with your friends tonight. You know what? I booked us a fantastic dinner for two at this fabulous restaurant. So,
mm,
we need to go with my business partner because he wants to see you and it's an important deal we're doing. So gradually they will organize things to stop you seeing your friends, your family, or they'll criticize them, or they'll get in the way of, or they'll make it increasingly difficult and awkward. And they'll start criticizing you and saying, I thought you said you were having your hair done. It looks a mess. You're going out in that. You look ridiculous. So gradually, slowly,
mm,
you don't need to work. Tell you what, you don't, I know you're not happy in your job. You don't need to work. I'm earning enough for both of us. Why don't you pack your job in? And then you're increasingly, again, dependent on them, reliant on them, needing them for things. And it can be a very slow, insidious little creepage into our psyche,
mm,
where we start accepting things. And they're saying they're being helpful, they're being supportive, we feel guilty because we start to feel a bit suspicious or unhappy about what's going on, and then we think, oh, how can I be so nasty when he or she has been so good to me, and it's a slow thing where we doubt it. It's kind of a gaslighting experience
yeah,
in a way.
yeah, yeah. It's so difficult, though, isn't it? But
Well,
it's a
yeah,
great thing. there's a great big, thing about relationships. You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
really tough.
Yeah.
Anyway, guess what? We come to an end.
Okie dokie.
It
Well, good
goes
to speak with
quicker.
you again.
Yes, and hopefully, can I have you back next week?
Okay, what do you want to talk about next week? I think we were
Um,
talking about sleep, weren't we?
yes, please. Yeah, is that all right?
Of course, yeah. Next Monday. Now, what are we? 8 o'clock again?
Yes, please. Yeah, all right.
8 o'clock next Monday. We'll talk about sleep.
And
Excellent.
I'm sorry about tonight.
It's okay, no problem. We've covered a lot of ground. If you want to have a look at my articles, they're on lifestyletherapy.net, free to access, all sorts of information there about tonight's topic, relationships.
If you send me the web link, I will put it up on my website that everybody
Okay,
listen. All right.
excellent. Thank you. All right,
Thank
Steve, take
you,
care.
sir.
See you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye. Can't get out. Thank you, Susan, for that. And there you go. It's about relationships. Relationships is really a wide spectrum of things, and all you got to do is really, in it, is love one another, basically. I don't know how my wife put up to me, but I do love my wife. Don't tell her. Anyway, I've got to go now because I'm on again around about a few minutes with Jane Bucko. So stay tuned. Thank you, Susan, and thank you so much, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.